All right, guys, welcome back to Downtown Rams. As always, I'm your host, Alexis Kraft, joined here with my co-host, Jake Ellenbogen. And guys, it's officially summertime, and everybody talks about looking good for the warmer months, but few have the balls to do it. Well, it's time to nut up or shut up and take the easiest step to looking sexy this summer by using Manscaped. Manscaped's Ultra Smooth package makes sure you have the proper care for down there, and their Boxers 2.0 gives you the perfect stage to show off the new look. These products may make you look hot, but your cleanly shaved nethers will keep you cool. And the Boxers 2.0 patented jewel pouch technology will keep your boys from turning any beach day into a swamp day. Dive headfirst into summer by joining the 5 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get 20% off plus free shipping when you go to manscaped.com and use promo code DTR. All right, Jake, we are back talking about the Rams. I want to apologize to everybody that I'm having some audio issues today. So if my audio does not sound like it normally does, I'm sorry, and it should work hopefully next time we do this episode. But Jake, we are talking about the Rams today. Training camp is in full swing, getting a lot of great content out there from the Rams and all the other NFL teams. We get to see a lot of cool stuff going on. Always fun, always good energy. Just seeing people back out there, it's like, oh my God, football's back. Like it's exciting, no matter what it is. And I touched on this today. Every team, goes into training camp and thinks that their team is the best. But Jake, we can really think that our team is the best because we are the reigning Super Bowl champions. So we have a leg up on everybody else. So I think this episode today, we're just going to kind of talk about what's been observed in training camp, our thoughts on it. Obviously, there's still a ways to go. Shouldn't be too long. But Jake, what is your immediate reaction seeing all the stuff coming out of training camp? What stands out to you the most?
Without getting, too overzealous, right? Because we always get really excited hearing about, a cool catch or like, oh my God, Stafford's throwing to Allen Robinson, jump for joy. But without getting too crazy in that aspect, I thought some cool things, you're seeing like Jacoby Durant, he had 2 interceptions yesterday. And I mean, that's kind of a big deal. I don't want to make too big of a deal about it, but it is a big deal that he's already out there. He's picking off Stafford. He's picking off Wolford. We know how they work. They go, ones versus twos versus ones, and vice versa. So it's good to see that he's making the most of his opportunity. In addition to that, we know Jacob Harris is somebody not to just completely forget about. He's moving to tight end, or moving to wide receiver from tight end permanently, as Sean McVay put out there. So obviously, again, not too much to take away. They're wearing those like caps, so like the soft shell helmets. So like we can't put too much stock into it. But it's exciting that they're out there. I believe it's like 40 days until week 1 kicks off on Thursday night against the Bills. So it's getting exciting, and I mean, I've told you over and over again, I'm just ready for it. I don't think I've ever been this interested in a baseball season. I don't know if it has too much to do with baseball or if it has more to do with the fact that I just can't wait for football. And it's weird because, we don't get to see the Rams in February every single year. It's happened now twice since 2018, but I don't know why. It just like, it feels like they haven't played in forever. And this is probably like the latest that they've played, that we've seen. So, it's it is funny in that sense. There's a lot of things to be excited about, and when you look at this roster and what they've done, adding guys like Bobby Wagner, hearing like an Ernest Jones talk about how important he is to just his development and so forth. It does make you excited. I'm very excited about Allen Robinson. I just placed a $10 bet over on Caesars that he will. I put my money where my mouth is. And I put $10 down on a plus 10,000 odds that Allen Robinson will lead the league in receiving, which I believe he will. So I'm getting pretty amped as well. Not a ton to talk about, right? Like we don't have preseason yet. We don't know like where the roster is and all that. We don't know what the camp battles will be. We know what they kind of might be. But in any event, it is exciting.
It is very exciting. A lot going on, and you touched on Jacoby Durant, and that was going to be my takeaway. Not only Jacoby Durant, but Darion Kendrick. Really, really good things coming out of camp about both of those corners, which is what we needed. And we obviously traded for Troy Hill, but we also put a lot of investment into two young corners in the draft. And I really hope, I know that I was wrong about Jacoby Durant. One, because I was thinking of a different cornerback's film when we did our draft, which I owned up for and I took accountability for everyone who watched our draft stream when they drafted Jacoby Durant. But even after that, I still was a little skeptical about the pick, and I'm really glad that so far he's proving me wrong. Darion Kendrick also really breaking out according to sources at camp. Jordan Rodriguez has done a really, really good job. If you guys don't follow her on Twitter, she's at camp every day and she's always tweeting out anything major that happens. Darion Kendrick and Jacoby Durant getting interceptions, breaking up plays, really standing out already, and could end up being the steals of the draft for the Rams at corner. So that's what I'm really excited to see or hear, I should say, out of camp so far. That's my biggest thing. But also, just seeing everybody back, the vibe is just good. Just seeing that everyone is back for camp. Offensively, Matthew Stafford getting back out there. I do want to touch on the soft shell. I actually like it. I don't know why a lot of people are bitching about the soft shell.
Oh, no, I'm not bitching. I understand
the
reasoning.
You're not.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, I
know
understand
that
the reasoning.
Not. But a lot of people are out there like, oh, it's so weak. And I'm like, why is it weak? Like, it's literally protecting, because you see all the time historically in training camp, or practice, specifically quarterback, hitting a finger on a helmet or, someone getting injured. Jake, I just don't understand why this has become such like people are mocking the NFL for doing this. I think it's great. And I think it's an improvement of the game.
I mean, this is what I'll say. You got to get smart, because if you are being dealt a bad deck, you have to make sure that when the time comes, it's not you who's dealing yourself the bad deck. And this goes back to Todd Gurley, as simple as that, with his knee and spending that much money on a running back. The Rams aren't going to do that again. And the Rams are one of the first teams to start using the soft shell helmet last year. And they're a team that had a thumb injury with their quarterback in Jared Goff, dealt a bad deck, right? Just a really freak injury. And then Stafford gets it in practice. And now they're not going to be putting themselves in position for that to affect them. It's stupid. It's preseason, training camp, practice. No, it's not worth having, like, just because they look cooler in pictures and such. Like, it makes no difference. And so it makes a ton of sense why, guys that are in the trenches, guys that have a chance to have, a close quarter, collision or something like that would have the soft shell. First off, it does protect their head somewhat, but secondly, it's going to protect the quarterback. When he comes through on his follow through, he's not going to hit his hand on, a metal helmet, essentially. So yeah. I like it. I don't think it's the greatest photo op ever. I mean, like, I think obviously
it's not the most attractive.
Yeah. Like, yeah. I mean, maybe make them a little bit better over time. Like, now that we know that's the direction they're going in, but no, and all jokes aside, I like it because I'm all about player safety. Now I want to see the NFL move towards getting rid of turf fields. Let's do that next.
Well, speaking of player safety now, guys, this is a Rams-centric podcast, but we are going to touch on some things just about the NFL, because I do want to bring up the Josh Allen thing, because it goes into what we're talking about now.
I had an issue with that, but I laughed it off.
So if you guys, okay, real quick also, before I get into this, staying true to my brand, and you guys like this, I'm going to open my Olipop for you guys that are like...
What a treat.
Into this. I know. I'm not a woman of the people, or am I a woman of the people? All right. Ready? How was
Damn.
That, Jake?
That was pretty
good?
Satisfying.
Good. That's my goal. My goal is to satisfy.
There we go.
Getting to what I was talking about, the Josh Allen thing. So if you guys are unaware, today at practice, they were having a scrimmage, first teams, offense, first defense for the Bills. Josh Allen is the quarterback of the Bills, which I'm sure you guys know, but just reiterating. Josh Allen ran for a touchdown, kind of like through the center, kind of like almost a running back play, and got shoved by someone on the defense. Like when he was making that play, Jordan Phillips, who's a defensive tackle for the Bills, kind of pushed him, which in training camp, the basically number one rule is do not touch the quarterbacks. They wear red for a reason. You can't really get a sack. You're not supposed to touch them. Like if you get near them, what would be a sack in the game, you just kind of have to lay off, because especially a quarterback like Josh Allen, when you have these big franchise quarterbacks, it's like do not injure them. That is like our livelihood. 99% of the time is the quarterback. Do not touch them. So this was a big no-no for Jordan Phillips to shove the quarterback. When he did that, Josh Allen, the quarterback that got shoved, got really pissed off and then shoved Jordan Phillips back. A scrum kind of ensued, whatever. Jake, I'll start with you before I give my opinions on this, because we talk about player safety, talk about, they go through all the measures, right? If they were all wearing soft caps, but yet you're wearing a soft cap and then, you're still getting shoved. Because this is a little bit of a complex answer for me, but because, Rams have only good things coming out of camp, there's sometimes not as much material.
Well, we do have something that I'll bring up after this bit.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
I just realized.
I do want to talk about this because I'm just curious to get your opinions. So we're talking about player safety. What did you think of this incident?
I hated it. Not because I'm a Josh Allen fan, which 2017 Jake would be, rolling in his. Well, I'm not dead, but you get my point. I'd be all over the place. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Josh Allen. I think he's the face of the league, and regardless of that, if that's Stafford, if that's Brady, I don't care if that's Trubisky in Steelers camp, you don't hit the quarterback. You definitely don't do it when you're Jordan Phillips. Phillips is a key contributor on the defense, but he's not a cornerstone player. So the last thing I'm doing is try to get myself cut, because the Bills will cut you if you enter. If Josh Allen, can you imagine like it's all fun and games. You get all pissed off. He's running the ball. First off, I think it's kind of stupid for him to run the ball, but it's all fun and games until the reason that you're considered the Super Bowl contender in the AFC, like the Super Bowl contender, is because of Josh Allen, and you ruin that. Like, that's not a Kurt Warner moment coming in for Trent Green. Trent Green got injured in preseason, and times were different back then, so guys played in preseason. If you injure your quarterback in training camp, you're getting kicked off the team. And at the very least, the fans are going to hate you, and they're going to want you off the team. I mean,
especially a quarterback that you're paying.
Oh, my God.
The amount of money that Josh Allen makes.
I mean, the NFL might do something about that. That's losing a lot of money right there. Josh Allen's very marketable. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on that. But what I wanted to hit on, Alexis, is that, well, we have multiple stuff. I didn't even think about it. The transactions. We have, unfortunately, Xavier Jones, who I was excited about the potential of, maybe getting going. The running back coach recruited him at SMU. Has familiarity with him. He was waived with an injury designation, so hopefully he's able to come back, and that's not like a long-term thing, and he gets an opportunity to compete in preseason. I'm not liking the odds of that. They did go out and signed Trey Lance, the fullback / running back from, I believe it was Louisiana Lafayette. I remember that name in the draft, but the big news, actually, the one that we probably should open up the show with because it's that big, is that Sean McVay is working through something with Van Jefferson. Jordan Rodriguez reported on Twitter, Sean McVay says team is working on figuring out an unknown situation with Van Jefferson, declined to say whether it involved Jefferson's previous knee injury, says team is working through it. Jefferson did not practice today, for what it's worth, from what I saw. So this is interesting. I don't want to speculate too much about it being an injury or about being a Deshaun Jackson situation where, maybe he sees, they're interested in OBJ. They go out and get Allen Robinson. And like, I'm sitting here and like, where's my place? Because it could be anything like that. But we at least have to bring it up. And I'm not going to say, Alexis, guess on what it is, because that's not fair to Van. It's not fair to the Rams, Sean McVay, etc. But it is very interesting, because let's just talk about the idea, what we would know if, regardless of these issues, regardless of what they are, we would know if any of them are true. Van Jefferson wouldn't be playing football at that moment. And that brings up the question, who takes over for him? We got Jacob Harris, who's emerging in camp now as a wide receiver, focusing solely at wide receiver, coming back from a torn ACL. You have Ben Skoranek, who, yes, every fan wants to, trash him, but the guy just played meaningful reps in the postseason. And I think when his number's called on, he'll be ready for those moments now because he's had that experience. Pretty much an invaluable experience that you could get in your rookie season, just not very common. And then you have Tutu Atwell, the second round pick, who you really like. Not you, specifically, but I mean in general, the Rams do. The Rams really like. They drafted him in the second round. He was held back at Louisville due to his quarterback play, but he led the NFC in receiving for preseason and didn't get an opportunity last year. Had a shoulder injury that sidelined him the rest of the season. And now here he is. He's absorbing everything from Cooper Kupp. He's around these guys. Like, what would happen? Because I honestly would say if it's anything serious, and this is as far as I'll go because I'm not going to speculate, but if it's anything serious, regardless if it's Deshaun Jackson or what, that type of thing, OBJ is a must sign.
Exactly. And again, I'm not speculating what's going on with Van Jefferson. It could very much be a physical injury. My vibe is that it might be a mental thing, whether that's a mental health thing or a contract thing or a team thing, whatever. But it did seem very ambiguous in the way that Sean McVay described it. So it did not feel to me that, if it was a physical thing, it seems like they would come out and say that, but it very well could be. The thing with the Rams receiving room is it is going to get crowded, but somehow not crowded at the same time. So you think about it, you've got Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson are wide receivers 1 and 2. 3 is Van Jefferson, but you also have Tutu Atwell. You have Jacob Harris, who is now exclusively a wide receiver. You have Ben Skoranek. I might be even missing somebody, but you could see if there's an interest in Odell Beckham Jr., which I believe there is. I think it's an open secret among the Rams. Like, they want him back. Well, I guess it's not even a secret. They want him back. But, I think that I could see a situation where Van Jefferson is seeing, okay, now Jacob Harris is a receiver. Tutu Atwell is the young draft pick. They're not getting rid of him. If they really want Odell Beckham Jr. back, when Odell Beckham Jr. can play, where does that leave me? I could see some nervousness out of him there, rightfully so. So it is going to be an interesting thing to watch, but, Odell Beckham Jr., whether he comes back or not, he can't play for a while. So we really need Van Jefferson because, like you said, if he's out, wide receiver 3, who is it? Does it become Tutu Atwell? Is it Jacob Harris? Is it Ben Skoranek? I mean, those are your 3 options right there. I don't know, unless you go out and get somebody, which I don't foresee the Rams wanting to do.
I would assume Higbee would take a bigger role if that happened.
Higbee would take a bigger role. I mean, again, then it goes into tight end, Bryson Hopkins, Kendall Blanton. You have guys. So I wouldn't say it's something to worry about, but I can see where a receiver like Van Jefferson would have some nervousness and not feel super confident that he is going to have a big role or be around for long. There's a lot of bodies, which is a good problem for the Rams to have, but not so much for Van Jefferson. But at the same time, it's like he is more proven than Atwell or Skoranek or Jacob Harris. So we do need him to be healthy. And hopefully this is just a minor physical injury that they're working through and he'll be back. But it is definitely something to keep an eye on because it was kind of a random bit of information that Sean McVay shared. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to worry about it yet. Jake, this leads me into Matthew Stafford because he did, he is throwing with the elbow. He said today that he's just really trying to make up for reps that he lost, during the spring and the summer, early summer, because he wasn't able to throw with the elbow. I don't think this is anything to be concerned about. I think he's right on track. I'm not worried about it. Jake, do you think there's any reason to worry about his elbow?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's like the same thing last year. Remember, he had like a wrist brace on. Everyone lost their collective mind, which I get. I'll understand that because you did just trade Jared Goff and picks away for a guy who right off the rip, the first time you see him, he's on a plane and he has a wrist brace on. Okay, like I understand that might be a little concerning. Didn't bother me then, doesn't bother me now. I think he'll be ready to go. They all got work done. I mean, Jalen Ramsey got worked on, in the off season. I think really that's what you do. When you make that much money, you could just get these surgeries and not really worry about it. Even if it's not like recommended by your specific team. These guys are like, no, I know my body more than the team doctor does, so I'm gonna get this wrist surgery or whatever. And it happens a lot, actually. Just all sorts of stuff. But two things. One I thought was kind of cool. I just want to highlight it. Eric Henderson, defensive line coach, is now he's not forcing, but he wants all his defensive linemen to wear bright yellow gloves. They're working on hand placement and different things like that. So I like, small nuance, of detail, Jordan Rodriguez reported. I thought that was kind of cool. I've never really heard of that. It makes a lot of sense. I don't know why they don't do that. But it does make a lot of sense because they go back, and what people don't understand is in training camp and practice, they have all those being taped. So we'll never see the tape of that. The players will, the coaches will. Coaches see the tape of all the practices. That's how they know different things that stand out. That's the first thing I want to bring up. Second thing is, and apparently, like, this is like the biggest thing of the day, is that they're going to be wearing the white uniforms. The modern throwback is now their official away uniform, according to Kevin Demoff. But for whatever reason, I don't know why, maybe just to feel the people that, make the people that worked on the bone uniform and spent all that time creating that feel good about themselves, they'll be wearing that twice this year.
Guys, once again, just want to point out that you can get 20% off and free shipping with code DTR at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code DTR at manscaped.com. There are so few perfect summer days. Don't let hot, sweaty balls ruin them. Stay fresh, clean, and smelling good with Manscaped. That is kind of the, whether it's the Rams or the designers of the bone or whatever, that's kind of like them not wanting to totally admit that they screwed up with the bone.
That was the vibe I
Like,
got.
they realized, like, they did the whites and they're like, oh man, we should have just done like the whites and not the bone, but they, can't come out and say that. So they are going to leave the bone for 2 games, and next year maybe it'll be gone. Maybe it'll be 1 game. I do think they'll phase them out, but I think that's more of just like a damage control thing by having the Rams wear the bone for 2 games. Because they're like, no, we're just having this be like an alternate, but then it's going to be gone when they'll come out with a new alternate. Yeah, I was very excited by this, but not at all surprised. I think from the moment they unveiled those modern throwbacks, which now I guess we shouldn't call them that because they're now the official.
I mean,
the white jerseys, I guess we should say.
Yeah, the road, I guess, the road jerseys.
The road,
and the home are going to be blue. So,
well, since they unveiled them, it's been pretty obvious. And like I said, I know people hated me when I said it when the bone came out. I was really hoping that it would be a crisp white away jersey. I now finally have it. And it's beautiful. It's my favorite combo, of the jerseys that the Rams have, and I'm really excited. And I mean, I knew they were gonna wear them opening night no matter what. Like, come on, like they were gonna wear those against the Bills, whether they gave them the away jerseys or not.
They should be able. And I'm gonna make this. I'm gonna make this here, okay? And you can shut me down. But I believe that when you win the Super Bowl, you should be able to wear your Super Bowl patch the entire year. You are the reigning MVP. You are the reigning Super Bowl champions. Now, I understand why they don't, and here's why. Mm-hmm. Because there are players on the Rams right now that did not win the Super Bowl. That is literally the only explanation. But in reality, you are the reigning Super Bowl champions. So at least having a patch, like I represent the Rams, I myself, and if you want to just take it that far, and maybe this is a little personal, but hey, having the ring ceremony during the actual NFL offseason was a little personal, right? I mean, Allen Robinson's sitting there at home and he's watching all his teammates get rings with the former players, and he's not there. So that's a little personal. But if you want to make it personal, and that's the reason why, like, okay, we're not doing it that way. All right, fine. Then how about those players that weren't on that Super Bowl team don't get a patch on their jersey? And then that's more reason to want to go out and win.
I can't say I agree on the Super Bowl patch thing all season long.
At least for opening night.
Like I mean, it's just like it's a new season, but I get where you're coming from. But I also just very much hate patches on jerseys, and I'm always terrified.
I was a little worried about the patch being on the other side, and I love it. I don't know. I ended up really loving it.
Well, like I just mean in general, like you know how like basketball, like they have advertisements like on their
well,
jerseys
that's
and
stupid.
Stuff.
I don't want that.
And so like I just like don't like any like extra stuff. I don't know, but I just think I mean I don't know. I get where you're coming from with the Super Bowl thing, but I just think the modern throwbacks are so good, and I think that when they unveil next season that like other uniform, then the bone will be gone. And I think that the other uniform is going to be I think it's going to be yellow. A lot of people think it's going to be black. I really do not want it to be black because I don't think that our colors are complemented very well by black, which sounds weird to say, but it would look
black
like
was fine until everybody unveiled a black uniform or a black helmet.
It would look like a Steelers jersey, but with like some blue accents.
If it was done well, it could look really good. And I've seen mocks where it looked good. Now, here's what I'll say, okay? We pay homage, and this is going to piss people off, but I don't care. We pay homage all the time to the Fearsome Foursome Rams. But the Fearsome Foursome Rams did not win a Super Bowl. Okay? They did not win an NFL title.
True.
As much as I love them, Roman Gabriel is a friend of my show. And I love football history. I love the Rams history. I wish the NFL did a better job of preserving our history. They didn't win anything. They didn't. The 50s Rams, they won a title. 1951. And I believe they were in the championship game in 50, and they won in 45. But 1951, they wore these uniforms where they had the yellow tops. If we pay homage to, the 1960 Fearsome Foursome look at the Coliseum, why are we not paying homage to the 1951 NFL champion LA Rams? The team that had Norm Van Brocklin, Bob Waterfield, Elroy Crazy Legs Hirsch. Like, why are we not paying homage to them?
Well, they very well could be. Those could be the next.
I think they are. I think that's what they'll do. I think they'll make that. They'll modernize it. They're not going to make it the old school, but I think that's what they'll do.
They'll never do this, but I would literally die if they did like a navy and gold.
I knew you were going to say, hey, our friend Rob did a mock-up of that, and I actually really liked it.
Well, here's the thing. Like, they could do it now to make them look good. Like, the material of the jerseys is different. Like, they could make a navy and gold uniform look good now in a way that they could not do back when that was like our actual colors. But, they won a Super Bowl in St. Louis. Those were like a very long time, the navy and gold. I'm not saying that you have to make it like just one game in navy and gold. I think it would really mean a lot to a lot of people that grew up in those colors. But they won't do that. I mean, I get it. It's not as exciting.
Maybe someday.
Bright. Maybe in like 2080, they'll be like, when was the very first Super Bowl the Rams won? Okay, we'll do those uniforms.
But they didn't. I think that's also an issue. They didn't win their first Super Bowl in those. And those, for the most part, bring back bad memories.
Well,
they bring back losing in the Super Bowl or cheated out of the Super Bowl by the New England Patriots. The Sosar Rams. I think that's really what it is. I don't even think it's a dig against St. Louis. I think they wanted to get out of those uniforms because that only brought bad memories, not the good stuff. Because they did go to a Super Bowl, but the fact that they lost in the Super Bowl with those, the fact that that's when the dynasty ended abruptly, the fact that they lost a double overtime game to Steve Smith in those, it's like they don't want to have those. So, and I get it. I do understand. I think it's more so about the Sosar Rams. Like the post-greatest show on turf, like the really bad, like Steven Jackson is the only thing worth watching Rams.
But could you imagine if like you just saw Cam Akers in the navy and gold like uniform that Steve Jackson wore, or like something? Like I'd cry.
You know who would cry? Kyron Williams. That would mean a lot to him, I'm sure.
It would, because he grew up repping that navy and gold Steven Jackson. But I
mean, that's basically Notre Dame's color scheme too. So.
Oh yeah. So yeah, he did get to wear navy and gold.
The horns.
But yeah, he didn't get to wear the horns. But yeah, they'll never do that, guys. Like, I'm not trying to put any false sense of hope or fear into anybody who hates those uniforms in that era. So don't worry about that if that's the case, because the Rams will never do that. But I would just like to see it. But I don't know. I feel like it's going to be a yellow jersey, but that's me. We still have a whole year, so we won't even get into that right now.
But the alternate helmet, which they'll do next year, that does worry me, because if they do the whole, well, we're gonna do the yellow, but we're gonna have a yellow helmet, I don't know about that one, Chief. I don't know about that. And the white, I definitely don't like. I've seen the white.
No, I don't like that.
I've seen people doing the mock-up of the white. Does not look good. It looks good on the Bills. It looks good on other teams. It does not look good with the Rams. The Rams really just look good with blue. If you do a black one, it has to be done with the accents. It has to be done perfectly. That's the only potential. The yellow with the blue horns doesn't go. It just doesn't.
I'm making sure real quick, because I know that we're wrapping this up soon, to see if there's anything that we missed.
I think,
but guys, and
we hit on everything.
We do, and that's what's good, is like there's no major drama. Like that's what, like, you see all this like training camp stuff. Like very little news is good news. It's not a good thing when you have something that happened like at the Bills.
Yeah, I don't want to hear about Stafford getting tossed to the ground by A'Shawn Robinson.
Although I will say about that, like Josh Allen probably should not have hit Jordan Phillips back. And also, that's kind of like well, I don't want to be like stereotypical, but the offensive line and the wide receivers should step up for their quarterback. Like Josh Allen should not have been the one. Like when the second that Jordan Phillips touched him, like his teammates should have taken care of that. Like that's typically, because what is Josh Allen gonna do? Like fight Phillips? Like that's not gonna happen. Like, and maybe it will, but it's not gonna go well.
Didn't someone get kicked out? Like they got cut from the team. Was it Earl Thomas? He got in like a big fight and he got like literally cut from the team. Not this year, but it happened a couple years back.
Oh.
Or was it about Michael Thomas?
I don't remember what happened, but like, yeah, if I were Josh Allen, like I would not have escalated that further.
No.
But speaking of training camps and other teams, last thing that I want to talk about, Jake, is Trey Lance. And this is relevant because he's in our division. And so I do want to touch on it because, you know, there is not as much Rams news as maybe we would like. So we're going to trash the 49ers here. And not even trash them. But Jake, so guys, here's what's going on. So Trey Lance is really, really struggling at training camp. He's thrown 10 interceptions, I believe, between today and yesterday. Is not playing the way that they're hoping he's playing. He had to stay late after practice today and was taking snaps from the center. And word coming out of the 49ers camp is like he's very much struggling. Now, because the 49ers are in our division and are the next talented team after us. I mean, pound for pound, it's us and then the 49ers. But if they do not have a good quarterback situation, none of that will matter for them. So, Jake, this is kind of good news. And again, we never want to cheer for anybody's downfall, but I'm just saying, looking from a game, like a competitive standpoint, knowing that the 49ers are struggling at quarterback is good news for Rams fans. Do you think Rams fans should feel a little bit of relief at this? Like, okay, like, you know, the 49ers aren't going to come into this season and be that much of a threat? Or do you think that Trey Lance is going to clean it up and be good to go by the time the season comes around and the 49ers are going to have a good situation in quarterback?
Yeah, so I think there are way too many cases where we put so much stock in preseason and training camp and all that and how guys practice, and it blows up in our face. Example A, Jamar Chase. Remember we were talking about that last year, and like you kept bringing up how people were like going all over Chase, and you and I were like, it's literally the preseason. Like the drops are a concern. I think we actually said it on our podcast. Like the drops were a concern, but we're like, Chase is a phenomenal talent. He's going to figure it out when he does. Like the drops will be in the rearview mirror. That's literally what happened. But this actually reminds me the most of a guy by the name of Patrick Mahomes. People forget Mahomes came from an offense that was more air raid at Texas Tech. And so he was kind of learning the ropes. And he was not ready to go. There were people that were hoping he would, supplant Alex Smith. Alex Smith remained the starter that season. Patrick Mahomes wasn't ready. I think the Trey Lance stuff at sometimes just tends to get overblown. Because I think what we do nowadays with the quarterbacks, the young quarterbacks, is that we put all this unnecessary pressure on them. Keep in mind the media first and foremost, like unless you're like really, like Jordan Rodriguez or somebody like that. If it's just like the mainstream talking head media that doesn't give you analysis and is just trying to give you a story, then I mean it kind of tells you all you need to know. They're trying to create a story about Trey Lance. They're trying to,
But here, and I'm going to challenge this. And again,
challenge it. Let's go.
I'm not cheering against Trey Lance.
Yeah.
I'm indifferent about him, but this is just like my thing. When you brought up Patrick Mahomes, the 49ers don't have an Alex Smith. Jimmy G is gone. I mean, they've severed. He's there, but he's gone. Like they were like, we're moving on from him. Like it's done. Like they said that explicitly.
But
so Trey Lance,
okay, I'll challenge that. Yeah.
But they don't have. Well, Jimmy G will not play for them again. He's been so disrespected by the 49ers that if I was Jimmy G sitting here listening to that, I would be like, are you kidding me? And especially if Trey Lance goes in and starts playing bad, I'd be like, you made your grave. There you go. You came out and were like, we're done with Jimmy G. They even openly said that like his shoulder was affecting his trade value. Like they just totally did not like give a shit about what they were saying with Jimmy G. So if I'm Jimmy G, I'm done with San Francisco. I don't care what they do. I don't care what they say. I want to move on. So Trey Lance is the guy. They don't have an Alex Smith to fall back on. Because I'm telling you, the Jimmy G thing, it's severed. It's done. I would not let myself be disrespected. Like, there's such a better way that the 49ers could have handled that. And again, I don't care that much because I obviously don't like San Francisco. But just speaking as someone who, like, felt like Jimmy G didn't get enough recognition for what he did, I feel like people were unfair to him a lot. I didn't like the way that went down. So what do you think if Trey Lance continues to play like this in training camp and preseason and it's just like not it? What do you think happens?
I was like chomping at the bit to challenge you on this. So here's what I would say. Okay. When Jimmy G was announced as the backup and Trey Lance was the guy, the media lost leverage on leveraging them against each other. Now there's no story. Trey Lance is the starter. You can't make any sort of quarterback controversy because the brass came out and was like, this is our guy. So you need to keep writing stories. Your boss is telling you, hey, you got to get this feature out. What are you going to write about? You're going to write about Trey Lance. And it may not be them making stuff up, but it may be them overstretching what is the truth. Because you and I are not in camp with Trey Lance, right? There's some people that are saying he's really bad. There's another guy I see here who goes to all the Niners camps on my Twitter feed, and he's saying he doesn't look anywhere near as bad as the media is making him out to be. And this guy like has gone against Trey Lance, and now he's defending him. Like, there's a lot to unpack here. What I would say is that it is not going to be decided to bench him in preseason, in training camp, in practice. He's going to have to show what he can do on the field. And if he starts to struggle, then the Niners might be like, all right, But keep in mind what that does to a young quarterback. Doesn't matter that he wasn't ready. If you decide to make him the starter, you give him the keys to the castle, and then you take it away like instantaneously, it kills his confidence. And we've seen young quarterbacks in this league get their confidence killed. Hell, I'll say I don't really like the road Justin Fields is going down right now. I don't. I think they might have destroyed his confidence in one season last year, and I don't love the pieces they put around him. I think Chicago might be the worst team. Sorry, Papa Don. But what I will say is that when you give guys an opportunity to make mistakes, what you have is Peyton Manning, led the league in interceptions, and then he ends up being a Hall of Famer, one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. You have Troy Aikman. Troy Aikman went, 0-7, 0-11, got sacked a bunch of times, ends up winning how many Super Bowls with the Dallas Cowboys? You have Jared Goff. Jared Goff, 0-7 his first year. He was dreadful. And actually, he wasn't that bad. The offensive line was that bad. And we saw that in the Saints game. He showed us some potential. They still never won a game. But then the next year, they're 11-5, playing in their first ever, playoffs since 2004. And, then he goes to a Super Bowl. So I would just say that we really need to see Trey Lance before we make that. And I'll say the Niners aren't going to make any decision until Trey Lance has played maybe half the season and things aren't going well.
And I agree with everything that you said, but here's the thing. Do you think the 49ers are going to let him have that type of season that you talk about, Aikman and
I think
Manning?
Garoppolo is terrible.
Well, but here's the thing. Their team, aside from the quarterback position, is pretty good.
Oh, I know.
And the NFC is wide open. Other than the Rams and the Bucks and maybe the Packers because of Aaron Rodgers, but they kind of, I think, have a weak offense. Other than that, we've talked about on the show, the NFC is wide open, okay? And if I'm San Francisco, I know that. Every team knows that. If I'm San Francisco, I know that. So am I going to take that risk of dying to self and saying, I'll throw my season away so that Trey Lance can go in, make the mistakes that he needs to make, and hopefully turns it around? Or am I like, you know what? This is our time to capitalize. There's a wide open window here. That's what San Francisco has to figure out, because are you going to give him the room to go in and potentially not play well?
But is that
for a long
any
time?
different than Jimmy Garoppolo? Any different? Here's the thing. When they went out and got Trey Lance, they looked at Jimmy Garoppolo. They saw he's a guy that knows how to run the system, but he misses key throws. I'll go back to one of them. He had a guy wide open in the end zone on a bootleg that was perfectly run by Kyle Shanahan, put in the playbook, all that. They run it, and he misses it on fourth down. Is Trey Lance going to be missing those throws? Like, how much worse can it get? And that's the thing, is like, we can continue to say, well, you know, Garoppolo led them to the Super Bowl. Garoppolo led in the NFC title game. No, he didn't. This team's been that good. And so I think when they went out and got Trey Lance, they were thinking like I was thinking. Imagine how good we would be if we had an offensive, an offense that was run by a quarterback who could work off script, who has mobility, who can challenge defenses in more ways than one. And if we develop him and have him go throughout our system, he goes throughout our culture, and we can turn him into what we want to turn him into, he's going to be absolutely lethal. And so I think they would play the long game because Trey Lance has bought them that time. But on top of that, I don't think it is the long game because I think they're better in Arizona. I think they're better in Seattle. And, they've had a good time, beating the Rams. So, we'll see what happens. I mean, the Rams, it's not guaranteed they're going to come out and sweep the Niners this year. So that's the thing I would say. And then on top of that, we saw Trey Lance last year. He was not that bad. He was not that good, but he won a game against the Texans, came in and, he had some trick plays where, he was throwing touchdowns and such. I didn't love the way they used him, and I thought he should have started over Jimmy Garoppolo. But I think this is his time. And, there's going to be a lot of, I remember the whole Jared Goff's hands are too small. He's fumbling balls left and right. He can't take a snap to save his life. It's a lather, rinse, repeat thing. That something I noticed only Trevor Lawrence seemed to never really go through, because that guy was just anointed as the top quarterback. He could do no wrong. And on top of that, last year, well, he had Urban Meyer. So 17 interceptions doesn't matter. So, I mean, like I said, it's a pick and choose. It's a selective, I call it selective critiquing. Trey Lance is the third overall pick. First overall picks tend to not bust. Third overall picks, they don't have as great of success. And on top of that, he's from the FCS. So when you think of all those things, you put those together, I think there's a recipe here. And I see what the media's doing, and I'm not going to bite it. They did the same thing with Jamar Chase last year.
Well, guys, there you have it.
There you have it.
It's just something to watch out for, being in the NFC West. Obviously, keeping up with other teams throughout the year is important, but especially preseason, trying to figure out who you're going to be facing. I mean, obviously, Trey Lance is the guy, but, obviously just today had a very not good day. And so that was something that I thought we should touch on, and we'll keep out for. But
glad
guys,
you did. That was awesome.
But all right, guys, that's going to do it for us. As always, if you like what you hear, please like and subscribe. You can follow us on social media at Downtown Rams. We are back on Instagram as the Downtown Rams, because we did not get that account back.
Thanks, Instagram.
I'm not saying that we will never get it back, but at this point, guys, It just felt like we needed to get another account. So if you go follow us on Instagram at the Downtown Rams, you can find us there. And guys, just want to remind you, you can get 20% off plus free shipping with code DTR at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code DTR at manscaped.com. There are so few perfect summer days. Don't let hot, sweaty balls ruin them. Stay fresh, clean, and smelling good with Manscaped. Just wanted to remind you guys. Also, follow me on Twitter at the Alexis Kraft. Follow Jake at JKBogan. We will be back next week with more training camp news and season predictions. But until then, guys, stay safe, take care, and go Rams.